Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Chris here, and today is January 14th, 2022, and in this video, we're going to be continuing our career comparison series with a discussion about who had the better career between Daniil Medvedev, Marat Safin, Yevgeny Kafelnikov, and Patrick Rafter. Now, if you guys are new to this channel, then I'd like to encourage you to please take a minute to hit the subscribe button down below. That'll keep you notified of any time we release additional content like this. All right, guys, so without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start this video off with the career of Daniil Medvedev. Now, just as a side note, it is a little bit icy out here, so hopefully I don't slip and accidentally injure myself while I'm out here on the walk today. So Daniil Medvedev, of all the players on this list, is of course the only active ATP player. He's still playing as of the time of making this video in 2022. He's also the only player to have only one Grand Slam title, although he has appeared in a couple of Grand Slam finals. I would describe Medvedev as being kind of like the best player, if you will, from the next gen group so far, at least. He's the only one of those players to have won a Grand Slam. And he was able to stop Djokovic at the US Open last year from completing the calendar year Grand Slam, which was very, very impressive. So Medvedev has had quite a good career, despite the fact that he's only won a single Grand Slam title, and I think he's about to turn 26 years old. I could be wrong on that, but I think he's pretty close to 26 now. But in either case, I would describe Medvedev as having a very good hard court game. He's really had great results on the hard courts. He's made the Australian Open finals last year. He was a finalist in the 2019 US Open, and of course he won the US Open last year. But his success was pretty limited on clay in particular, and also on grass, as will be the case with most of the players in this particular video. They were a little bit locked into one surface. So I would say that Medvedev had quite a good career, but he was a little bit lacking in terms of his versatility on the different surfaces. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Yevgeny Kafelnikov, who was a player from the 1990s. Kafelnikov would turn pro, I believe, back in 1994. He would win his first Grand Slam title when he was just 20 years old at the French Open, and then he would follow this up a few years later by winning his second Grand Slam title at the 1999 Australian Open. Kafelnikov would reach his third, I believe, and final Grand Slam final at the 2000 Australian Open, where he would lose in 4 sets to Andre Agassi. And I could be mistaken on this, but I believe he was ranked #1 for a very short time period in 1999. So I would say that Kafelnikov also had quite a good career, and unlike Medvedev in this particular case, he was a little bit more versatile because he was able to win Grand Slam titles on different surfaces. He was an excellent clay court player and an excellent hard court player. He was probably known a little bit more for his abilities though on a hard court. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to Marat Safin, who I covered in one of my previous career comparison videos. He actually happened to win that particular comparison video. So with Safin, he had a career that was very similar, I think in a lot of senses, to a player like Medvedev, where he was primarily a hard court specialist. He would win his first Grand Slam title at the 2000 US Open, where of course he would defeat Pete Sampras, and then he would win his second and final Grand Slam at the 2005 Australian Open, where he would defeat Roger Federer and then Leighton Hewitt in the finals. Now, Safin did have good results outside of the hard court slams. He would make a semifinal at Wimbledon in 2008, I think it was, and I think he made a couple of quarterfinals at the French Open, although I might be wrong on that. Ultimately, Safin was a little bit locked into the hard courts, and his best results were certainly usually on that type of surface. And now we're going to move on to Patrick Rafter, who had the most versatile results of all four of these players. Patrick Rafter would turn pro back in 1991. It would take him a few years before he was able to really get his best results, but in 1997 he would reach the finals of the US Open, where he would win his first Grand Slam title. And then the following year he would win his second Grand Slam title by defending the US Open championship. Now, he would actually defeat Pete Sampras in the semifinals, I think it was, of the 1997 or 98 US Open. I can't remember the year on that. But here's the interesting thing. Patrick Rafter, after winning the Davis Cup with Australia in 1999, would come back in the year 2000 to reach the finals of Wimbledon, where he would lose in a very, very close match to Pete Sampras. And of course, this is the match where Sampras famously broke Roy Emerson's record of 12 Grand Slam titles to become, at that time, the player with the most Grand Slam titles. It's interesting to think that only 22 years ago now, the record was 13, and now it's 20. So it's really jumped up a lot in the past couple of decades. Patrick Rafter would then reach another Wimbledon final the following year, where he would lose a very, very tight, heartbreaking match to Goran Ivanisevic in 5 sets. So if we take Patrick Rafter, we can see pretty clearly that his best surfaces are hard courts and grass. He did have okay results on clay, but it was never really a strength for him, and I wouldn't say that he was ever super close to winning the French Open. Now, if I had to rank these players from who I think had the best career to who I think had the worst career, this is actually a pretty interesting question. It's one I had to think about a little bit. I would put Yevgeny Kafelnikov in 4th place, and the reason for that is really just because I didn't feel that he had a super tough opponent that he faced on his way to winning either of his Grand Slam finals. Certainly the 99 Australian Open, Sampras wasn't playing in that event, and Kafelnikov even thanked him for not playing that particular year, because he said, I would never have won this event were Sampras involved in it. And it was also just before Agassi went on his famous roll of reaching 4 consecutive Grand Slam finals, so I do feel that if Andre had been at his best, Kafelnikov also probably wouldn't have beaten Agassi either. So because of that, and also just because he didn't make as many finals as some of the other players on this list, I would probably put him in 4th place. In 3rd place, I would actually put Marat Safin. In terms of overall consistency, he really didn't have the same level of consistent results as a lot of his other peers, like Leighton Hewitt, and I think because of that, I would probably put Safin in 3rd place on this list. In 2nd place, I would put Daniil Medvedev, and some of you guys might be wondering why I'm putting him up so high. The biggest reason for that is I just feel that he's going to keep winning for a while, especially if Djokovic is not involved in the game anymore. I do believe that Medvedev has a very good chance of winning more than 2 Grand Slam titles, and he's already achieved quite a lot at 26 now years old, so I think I would give him 2nd place. And then of course in 1st place I would put Patrick Rafter, just because of his 2 US Open victories, which were very impressive in 1997 and 8, and then also his Wimbledon finals. Being able to reach the finals of both of those tournaments really puts him in a separate class from most of the other players in this particular comparison video. So anyway, guys, that does it for this video. Please leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you think I'm right or if I'm crazy in this one. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching. I always love to hear from you guys. So if I'm late to respond to the comments, it doesn't mean I don't read them. I always love to hear your feedback and your thoughts, so please leave them anyway. And thanks again, guys. Take care. I will see you at the next one.